Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now August 26th of 2020, and ever since the very end of the Skywalker saga, a lot of fans around the world have been very curious about the future of the Star Wars franchise by Disney, Lucasfilm, Bob Iger, and Bob Chapek, and exactly what they're really going to do with the future of this new universe. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, the one thing about Disney Star Wars is that yes, we do know that they are currently in a phase of desperation and damage control to really get the ball rolling again when it comes to Star Wars. They essentially really want to bring it back to the pre-2012 era of Star Wars where fans were still reunited and really looking forward to what may actually have become the future of Star Wars at the time, where there was a lot of rumors back in 2011 about George Lucas giving Lucasfilm over to Disney, which all happened in 2012. Now, the thing about all of this is that it's quite crazy looking back at 2013, where we have Kathleen Kennedy promising George Lucas about all her promises that she was actually making for respecting the characters and really taking control and really taking respect for the characters like Luke, Leia, Han, and so on and so forth, and how she was going to use all of the Star Wars Legends material and transferring them into movies, which we saw was the complete opposite. Now, when we look at everything between George Lucas, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni, what they are all trying to do as a team is that they are really trying to deliver as much authentic Star Wars material as possible. So they really want to stay in line with the vision by George Lucas to really satisfy the fans around the world, to really give them something to truly look forward to and be excited about, which really brings us to, of course, this new universe that's going to take place primarily on Disney Plus and, of course, in theaters. Now, what's really intriguing is that with the Skywalker saga now over, both Disney and Lucasfilm are focused on their new Star Wars universe, as well as their new trilogy of movies. It's explained that both Bob Iger and Bob Chapek are actively developing plans to reunite the Star Wars fans with Lucas, Favreau, and Filoni by their side in order to create a brighter future for the Star Wars universe. It's explained that behind the scenes, many changes are being made over at Lucasfilm, with Disney hiring new creators to take care of the Star Wars brand. However, it's noted that during and after the Rise of Skywalker premiere, many interviews were given to the creators and actors of the sequel trilogy, to where at one point in time after the premiere, Harrison Ford was questioned about the sequels that also involved Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy. It's explained that eventually Harrison Ford unveiled that originally Han Solo was going to have more scenes with Adam Driver as Ben Solo in both The Force Awakens and in The Rise of Skywalker to build up the familiarity between father and son. And this is just rather unfortunate that we did not get more scenes between Ford and Driver, because it really would have been quite surreal to see father and son, really getting along in different segments of, time of the Star Wars universe. Now, Harrison explained that he was very excited to work with Adam Driver, so in Episode 7, before Kathleen Kennedy stepped in and decided to only have Han Solo in one scene with Driver, Kylo Ren, of course, Ford went on to reveal that there was even a special tribute to Han Solo that was going to be done in The Last Jedi that was steered away from the movie. Now, this most likely connected to the long-rumored Han Solo funeral scene that took place in the beginning of the movie that was cut by director Rian Johnson for The Last Jedi and by Kathleen Kennedy. So you guys may recall that years ago, there was a big rumor, of course, of this Harrison Ford scene playing Han Solo in a memorial segment or some kind of tribute to Han Solo in a very specific way for The Last Jedi that was going to be done. A funeral, in a sense, that was really going to be narrated by Leia Organa herself. Now, Harrison continues to state that it was Kennedy's decision to create far less scenes between father and son, and that it was her idea to create Han in the form of a vision for Episode 9. Harrison unveils that he was very confused as to why they wanted him back for Episode 9, since he was very confused as to why they were doing this, since he was already dead and knew that he couldn't pass this up, and even asked Kennedy if he could have more scenes done with Adam Driver, since he loved working with Adam Driver in The Force Awakens. Now, of course, because of all of this, since he loved working with Driver during the shoot, there were extra scenes between himself and Adam Driver that were tested but ultimately cut from the entire film, Ford reveals. Now, those scenes were said to be one of his best work for the sequel trilogy that Kennedy decided to put into the cutting room floor and put it on the wayside of things. So, Kennedy was directly responsible for deleting extra scenes with Harrison Ford as Han Solo interacting with Ben Solo. This most definitely connects to the scene segments that we talked about a year ago, of the flashback segments between Han, Luke, and Ben Solo and more, near the Jedi Temple and near the Millennium Falcon. Now, moving on, the scenes done between Driver and Ford were shot in both late 2018 and early 2019, during the first and second phase of reshoots and rewrites, where Ford describes that Adam's work with him in those scenes that were cut by Kennedy were out of this world and very emotional, that he, as an older actor, learned from a younger actor such as Adam. Fans have always wondered what could have been if Kennedy did not step in and delete said scenes from the film, and that Bob Chapek plans to release the deleted segments sometime in 2023 with a planned Rise of Skywalker JJ cut / Lucas cut for the movie that will tap into those extra scenes of the film. So here's the thing about Harrison Ford, is that yes, we do know that he had a lot of work done for The Rise of Skywalker, and initially, he was supposed to have more scenes done for Episode 7, before Kathleen Kennedy dwindled it down to one scene between himself and Adam Driver. So he was supposed to have more scenes with Adam Driver as Kylo Ren. That, to me, I think it would have been a little bit more fleshed out. I think it really would have created a bigger emotional impact on the death of Han Solo. I think the problem with the death of Han Solo is that I'm not saying that it's necessarily not emotional, but it wasn't emotional enough, at least for me as a fan, and I'm sure some of you guys out there may agree, is that when we look at that scene and analyze it deeply, no historical background visually seen in the movies, right? Before that, there was only dialogue of Harrison Ford talking about, or should I say Han Solo talking about his son, Ben Solo / Kylo Ren, to Adam Driver as Ben Solo and Harrison Ford as Han Solo together as, these two big actors working together on set. It would have really boosted the familiarity. I think that having at least 2 scenes beforehand of Han Solo's death would have made it Han Solo's death until at some point in time in Episode 8, and then shifted Luke's death for Episode 9. That's exactly how I think things should have been done. I think that any kind of death in The Force Awakens should have been absent. I think it really should have been, at minimum, a minor character. Like a very minor. But The Last Jedi, I feel that should have been the right time for Han Solo's death. I think it would have fit more on a creative scale. You can just see what they could have done. They could have a big interruption between Han and Ben, where they have to split ways on the cast. I know that Mark Hamill even brought up the idea of all the characters coming together, and even at minimum, having Luke and Leia witness the death of Han Solo. So Han Solo's death was only witnessed by the new characters, not even by the originals. So, like I've said before in the past, I think that when we look at everything between Harrison Ford and Kathleen Kennedy, the way it should have been. And that's exactly how I feel it should have been. It's kind of crazy. Jaina Solo and, Han and Leia and them as a family, and eventually Anakin Solo. In the movies, we really only had, legitimately, one scene between the Solo family. When we look at The Force Awakens, we really only had Han Solo interacting with Kylo Ren. He wasn't even turned to the light at that point in time. And in The Rise of Skywalker, mind you, it was just a vision after all. So, like I've said before in the past, guys, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support.